Welcome to the Irishman, Englishman and Scotsman Football Podcast. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Irishman, Englishman and Scotsman Football Podcast. Joining me in the studio, Kev.
Yeah, hi JP.
Joe.
Good evening, JP.
And all the way from sunny Edinburgh, Fino, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. How are you guys?
Good. Good to hear from you, man. Okay, run through what we're going to look at this week. Of course, there's been no games because of the international break. We're going to chat about COVID in football, the prices that Sky Sports are charging people these days. Have a look through our best players and the best teams so far, worst players, the worst team so far, a manager under threat. I think we might have the same answer to this one. And we'll preview a few of the games coming up next Saturday. Plus, Kev might have a world exclusive also. Anyway, we will start off with COVID in football. It's been a crazy few days. And the amount of Premier League teams that have lost players and international teams that have lost players due to this thing, is it even worthwhile?
International football is a wild idea at the moment. If I take Scottish football, we've had 3 Celtic players either positive or self-isolating because of cases, all from 3 different nations who've all travelled to different countries or will travel back, interacting with lots of other footballers who could take it back to their teams. For me, it's just an absolute money grab from UEFA and FIFA, and I don't know how we go forward from here.
Yeah, it's really hard to understand, isn't it? I mean, it feels like the stupidest decision in football since they made that Liverpool-Atletico Madrid Champions League game happen all the way back in March. It feels, I guess there were some Euro 2020 games to take care of, so I can sort of understand that, but these Nations League games, it's really, really difficult to countenance playing these games.
And I think I saw today that the Republic of Ireland lost 5 players from their squad today to play Wales, which is incredible.
They did, and they lost 2 big ones before the game against Slovakia on Thursday night as well. 2 strikers were out. Now, I think that imagine they'll be missing for their clubs now for the next 2 weeks. You know,
yeah.
So,
I mean, this is it. I mean, I think we saw again today. Just before we came in here, as we're recording this anyway, I saw that Naby Keita has tested positive again.
Yeah.
And if we're talking later on about disappointments, he's number 1 on my list because we all thought this would be the year, that he would kick on, and the fact that he's now going to, miss another couple of weeks for Liverpool, it's just honestly, why are we doing it? Could not some common sense have prevailed?
It's an important couple of weeks as well. The European games are starting. We'll talk about Liverpool's big derby game coming up. It's the same in Scotland, Rangers Celtic at the weekend. And then going into the European games, it's a really pivotal time for clubs. And they're not going to have their star players.
No, I mean, this decision to play these Nations League games, for example, guys get injured or even guys getting this COVID, missing 2 weeks, missing huge games that could eventually cost teams titles, cups, managers' jobs. The ramifications are crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. During my time in Spain, they used to call it the FIFA virus, and I'm not sure that ever sort of caught on. But this would be the UEFA virus, I think. Well, FIFA in general, because there's games going on all over the world, obviously with tons of players in South America and so on as well. But yeah, it really, really hard to understand. Now,
Fino, you're back in Scotland, and you don't have the luxury we have here of being able to see 6 to 7 Premier League games a weekend in the pub. Sky Sports are charging crazy prices in the UK and Ireland now, I believe.
Yeah, so news came out earlier this week anyway, or at the weekend, that they're going to charge £14.95 on a pay-per-view basis for games that aren't picked for television. And in the UK, you're £80 a month already for your subscriptions.
Is it really that much?
Yeah, in HD, of course, they're still charging for HD quality feeds. It's £80 a month, and then on top of that, it's £14.95. And people probably still forked out for their season tickets. And it's something that I feel quite strongly about because obviously at the moment, everyone is struggling financially. Everyone's trying to make sure that they're financially secure because they don't know what's around the corner with the pandemic. And I thought it would be interesting to do a bit of a comparison between the various countries and their monthly subscriptions. So I went to Reddit, the font of all internet knowledge, and I asked them, and I've done a bit of a currency conversion. So if you look at the US, just for the Premier League games, you're talking about £60 a month. Although you seemingly need internet on top of that too, which brings it up. Ireland, for the exact same product, Sky and BT, is £35 a month compared to the 80. Finland, £25 a month. Germany, 15. Australia, £8 a month. And India is £4 a year to watch the Premier League. Now, of course, economic differences, etc., but I do think that this is going to drive fans away in their numbers, as they essentially just have a money grab here from Sky and BT.
It would have been a great opportunity for clubs to kind of get in on this thing. For example, if you had a season ticket, that would give you 50% discount off of Sky. And the clubs could have maybe paid the difference or worked with Sky or something to keep the fans there, keep them interested. I know they did the thing where they had your picture up and you could pay money and your picture would be in the stadium and the crowd. But it would have been a great chance for the clubs. But of course we know it's all about money, and it's really sad that it's got to this and it's just this price to watch a game of football.
Of course it's all about money. Of course it's always about money. And the sad thing is it's not even going to generate all that much money, is it? Because with the best one in the world, how many people are actually going to fork out £15 to see these games?
I mean, you certainly wouldn't pay $14.95 to watch Burnley v West Brom, would you? I think we should give some plaudits to Leicester City here. So they were the only club who actually voted against this. All other clubs in the Premier League voted for it. So I was really disappointed, certainly in my club, Southampton, and some of the other clubs who say that they are for the fans, but they didn't vote against this. And I think it's also going to really push fans towards illegal streams. I think, of course, fans, they just can't afford to pay all this money to watch football. So I think the Premier League are going to have a massive problem on their hands.
I think you could sort of say, right, if it's towards the business end of the season, pay-per-view, £15, you could get all your mates round. You could make a case for it, right? A really important game right towards the end of the season. But everyone knows at the moment you're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to bring people around to your house, basically. It's just a ludicrous amount of money. If it was some nominal fee, if it was like $2.99 or something like that, okay, or the price of a pint wherever you are, fine. But £15 is just absurd for this, and they should be ashamed of themselves.
What do we think? So I have an idea in the future. I don't know. It might be 5 years. It might be 10 years. What if the Premier League had dropped all of their broadcast deals with Sky, BT Sports, Amazon Prime, all around the world as well, and then they kind of introduced their own streaming service, Premlix they're calling it. So in the future you may only have to pay £15 a month, and then you can watch any Premier League game you want. Do we reckon that is something that may happen?
I don't think so. I think there's too much money to be lost from the big dogs like Sky and BT. I mean, look at what we have here in the Zone and Sky Sports Germany. It's nowhere near the prices of what you're paying in the UK. Way more games. The Zone show you every single Ligue 1, Serie A, all the games in Spain, plus, Champions League, Europa League for a minimal fee compared to what you're paying back home. It's bonkers.
I think Joe, you're actually right. I think it is going to be a Netflix style service. I think it's only a matter of time. I think the deals finish maybe 21, 22 or something like that. Hopefully the savings will be passed on to the customers because they're not having to deal with broadcasters or advertisers or whatever it is. They can handle all that stuff in-house. I think it's a great idea. I don't think it's going to be motivated by giving the fans a better experience, and that's a very sad thing. I think it's only going to be motivated by how much revenue it can generate.
Yeah, and I think it's wise to keep that in mind, to be honest, because what you were referring to at the top of the show, JP, I'm assuming you're referring to the story, the Sunday Telegraph exclusive that came out today, the big picture document that's been prepared supposedly by Liverpool's owners, but with the backing of Man United. And, talking about giving more power to the big six, possibly to the other semi-big three that are with them, but to give them power of veto in a sort of UN style. Well, there you go. It's really weird, isn't it? Did anyone see who it was? But no. I think it was Everton, and I think it was West Ham. I think it was West Ham, Fino, wasn't it?
Leicester.
I don't know. I hope that West Ham's management aren't involved in any decisions with regards to football, because surely some horrendous decisions being made for our team, let alone the league.
But obviously this, if it ever comes to pass, it's obviously about concentrating control, even more in the hands of the established clubs. And I totally understand it, because people who make real money, so the people who have made, the billionaires out there, I'm afraid we're talking about billionaires now, aren't we, when we're talking about football clubs? You just have to remember that these sort of people, when there's a crisis, all they think about is, how do you make more money? How do you turn this crisis into an opportunity to make more money? And it seems to me that what we read about today is all about making sure that they safeguard that power They're prepared to accept that 6 is the magic number. And one of the things that was talked about in that document was the power of veto, even about new ownership of clubs, because they're terrified of there being a new Man City. They're terrified of that 6 becoming 8, that 6 becoming 10, and then suddenly no one's guaranteed to get in the Champions League. Something about limiting the amount that clubs could charge away fans for tickets sounds great. About bringing a minimum number of tickets for away fans sounds absolutely great, but obviously none of this is motivated by giving anything back to the fans. None of this is motivated by anything altruistic at all. It's all about the money.
Very good point there, Kevin. Just something you brought up there about they're terrified of there being a new Man City. It might explain why the Premier League blocked the Newcastle move. You never know. Wasn't there a couple of games last season that were shown on Amazon Prime?
There were.
Yeah, so that's, it could be an insight into what could happen either. I just think Sky would crumble without the Premier League,
Yeah,
100%.
I mean, it is interesting someone like Amazon taking it, because, like I say, it's billionaires' playground at the moment, isn't it? Wouldn't surprise me at all, really, if in the end it's either like the Prem Licks or whatever you called it, something like that, or it goes all to Amazon, like the richest man in the world, or potentially even an Apple, something like that. But I wouldn't be at all surprised if the model that we're seeing now, which was so successful, don't forget the Premier League was built on the back of that deal with Sky, right? Revolutionised the televising of football, just as the ownership of football and the ownership of the league was revolutionised. But it's not forever, and there will be another change coming up, and it will all be motivated by money, and it will all be about concentrating the power in the established elite.
I mean, how many households in the UK and Ireland and around the world, whatever, they get Sky in just for the Premier League. So without the Premier League, I mean, Sky, what were they showing? The darts and, what else? A fishing channel?
Sky Arts, JP.
Sky Arts.
That's where you get.
That's where he gets his inspiration for the poems, people. From Sky Arts. Okay, moving on. We're going to pick our player who we think is the standout player for our standout team. The player that disappointed us more than anyone else, the team that's disappointed us, and which manager we think are going for the chop. Now, we don't know who each other's picked, so the chances are we could have all picked the same player. I'll go first. I've picked James Rodriguez for the standout player. Joe is looking at me. I think he might have picked the same one.
No, nearly.
Okay, I'm not finished. One sec, sorry, Joe. Yeah, he's come into not a very, attractive club in Everton. Liverpool, grimy weather and grey buildings, and he's done amazing. 4 games, 3 goals, 2 assists. Super, absolute super. Joe.
So I actually picked his teammate, Dominic Calvert-Lewin. I just think he scored 10 goals in 7 games for club and country this season. He's just been completely remarkable, and he just looks, every single game, he looks like he's going to score, which is, for a striker, a pretty handy knack to have.
Yeah, I actually went for Dominic Calvert-Lewin as well. I mean, what a transformation. He was potentially rightly derided by a lot of Everton fans in the beginning of his career. They weren't sure if he could hack it at that level, but Ancelotti has made him into a phenomenal player, I think. He's going right into the Euros next year, and if you're looking for a cut price Haaland, he's not a bad replacement.
Kev, have you picked Jordan Henderson?
I would have done if he played any football. I probably would. No, I've got to go for James. I think James is one of those players. I think he's a wonderful guy to watch. I haven't actually looked at any of his stats whatsoever, but he's a pleasure to see on the field, and the vision that we talked about in the past. With strikers, you never know. I think 2 things might happen with Calvert-Lewin. Either there's a bit of reversion to mean, and then that record drops off a little bit. Or I think Man United come in and buy him during the January transfer window for about 150 million quid.
You never know with Man United. But certainly, I mean, from a foreign player coming in like that to make such an impact in a short period of time, has been fantastic. For the teams now, the team that stood out the most, I've gone for Villa. 3 games, 9 points, second place. Jack Grealish stays. Ross Barkley's in on loan. Samata from Fenerbahce. Traore from Lyon, who scored on his debut. 7-1 hammering of champions Liverpool. That has to be their best result since they won the Coca-Cola Cup in 1996.
Completely agree.
Kev, go ahead. What have you got?
It's got to be Everton, really. So again, as I've said before, I've got no problem with Everton. I love seeing Everton doing really well. I love to see the Liverpool and Everton going at it, hammering tongs at the top of the league. Great policy, great players coming in, great manager. And long may it continue. I hope Liverpool, Everton are 1 and 2 this season.
Right, Fino, who have you got?
Yeah, Everton again. I think we've all picked Everton players for the best player so far. I think Everton have showed some immense class. And looking at the start of the season, nobody would have said that this upcoming Everton-Liverpool game might have been the game of the season, but it definitely looks like it's shaping up to be.
Indeed. Joe?
So I went for the team who have surprised me the most, and that's been Leeds. To have 7 points from their 4 games, having played Manchester City and Liverpool, is an amazing return. And I wasn't sure if their high press would be so effective in the Premier League as it was in the Championship, because every team in the Premier League has a high press. But somehow it's worked and they've been fantastic, and I think they could be on for a top 10 finish.
I agree, 100%. I think they've been great to watch. So much energy, and like you said a couple of weeks ago, Joe, I mean, they would have benefited even more if the fans were Ellen Road, but they're giving everything for Bielsa, and fair play to Leeds. Moving on, our player who has disappointed us more than anyone. I'll go last here. You want to go first, Joe?
This one was a tricky one because obviously there's only been 4 games, but I've gone for Timo Werner at Chelsea, and that might be a bit harsh.
It's close to picking him.
But when you come in for nearly 50 million, he hasn't scored yet in the Premier League. I think they're still working out what kind of system to play him in. I was hoping that he was going to come in, hit the ground running and score loads of goals, but it just hasn't happened yet.
I think it's tough to single an individual player out, but what a shocker of a season Harry Maguire's had, both on and off the pitch. And, Joe was talking there about the 50 million for Timo Werner. The 80 million for Harry Maguire, I think, makes him pound for pound the worst player this season so far.
Very true. Kev?
I'm purely going to go for a player. I'm disappointed now because he's playing at all, and that's the Liverpool reserve goalkeeper, Adrian. The fact that he's going to be playing for the next few weeks as Alisson is injured just makes me sad to my core, because he's a lovely fella, but he is a terrible goalkeeper. He doesn't save any shots, never has done, only saves when they're straight at him. Liverpool are going to lose a load of games while he's out, or they're going to drop a load of points anyway, and I'm really nervy about that Everton game now.
Is he Karius in disguise?
Yeah, pretty much. It's a Karius or Mingale.
Right.
Honestly,
I've gone for Phil Foden at Man City. I mean, he was hyped up last season to be this great thing. We knew David Silva was moving on. He was brought in to replace David Silva, in a sense, moulded in. He hasn't done it. That stuff that happened in Iceland, that crap, idiot stuff. And I don't think he's the player he's hyped up to be. I think he's had a poor start. Poor old Phil Foden. Should have stayed in Reykjavik. Okay, and then our team who's disappointed us the most. I have a feeling we might have the same team here. I'll go first in this one. I've gone for Man United. 3 games, 3 points. Absolutely hammered by Tottenham. Haven't played well at all. And they're down close to the relegation zone. And I can't see things getting any better anytime quickly soon.
I've picked out Manchester United as well. I just think what a shame it is that we have Liverpool and Man City flying high, and how good would it be if Man United were in there as well, scrapping with their closest rivals, Man City and Liverpool. I'm not a massive fan of Man United at all, but I think for the league it would be awesome if you could have those 3 teams, battling it out.
Fino?
I think it might even be a full house for this, but Man United, just a very disappointing start.
Is this Kevin's chance to save some face with Man United fans? Kev?
I'm desperately trying to think if there's someone else I could choose, but I would have said Southampton show after those first 2 games, but seeing as they've come back and won a couple, so I can't have that. No, it's really hard to look anywhere else, isn't it? It's just pretty dismal, really, and it was a shambles, and it's probably going to continue to be a shambles until they're prepared to take a very difficult decision.
And that decision leads us to my choice for the manager who's under threat, and I've gone for Solskjaer, obviously. A couple of weeks ago we brought up Solskjaer, last week and the week before, about he went down to Cardiff, and how did he do with Molde in Norway? Now, Molde are up there with Rosenborg, and they're one of the bigger teams in Norway. A couple of stats here. So he was relegated with Cardiff, won only 9 games that season, went down with Cardiff, yeah? He had 3 seasons at Molde. He won absolutely nothing, despite being one of the richest teams in Norway. And the season when he left, they won the league. Then he went to Manchester United. I mean, the guy hasn't come with any pedigree. They just given him a load of money, and I think he's out of his depth.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I was reading on social media earlier that apparently both Manchester clubs are eyeing up Pochettino's, so both Man United and Man City. And it would be very interesting to see who snaps first. I think Man City will never make a decision until the end of the season, but Man United could definitely step in front there and bring Pochettino in. Now, United fans are a bit divided on that, if he's the right man, but Solskjaer spent 300 million in 2 years and apparently still hasn't been backed by the board. If you think about Spurs, go back to when Poch was manager, he hadn't bought a single player for nearly 2 years. It was something like 500 odd days, and Pochettino took them to a Champions League final. Can you imagine the uproar if Solskjaer hadn't been backed for those kind of 500 days? It would have been carnage on the streets of Manchester.
Would have been madness. Joe?
So I went for Scott Parker at Fulham. Obviously, they've played 4, lost 4. I think the relationship with the chairman seems pretty bad. In fact, last week, the chairman actually tweeted apologising for the team's performance. And I expect Fulham to maybe make a change and bring in a Sam Allardyce or a Tony Pulis style manager.
There's only one. The obvious one is Pep Guardiola, right? I mean, he's in terrible trouble. Really, really, really terrible start to the season. Very inconsistent. It's not going to last out the season. Obviously not popular amongst the fans or anything like that. Heard it here first. Pep won't make it to the end of the season.
Shock horror. Kev ridicules the Manchester club again. Okay, we haven't got too long left, guys, so we're going to just run through what's coming up on Saturday. Amazing kickoff to the weekend. Top of the table clash at Goodison. Everton versus Liverpool, 1:30. Which way does this want to go, Kev?
You know, I'd love to say that it's going to be Liverpool, and I said last week I think they are going to come out with a lot to prove, and I think there's going to be a change. There's going to be a very different attitude in the team. But look, they're missing key players. Chief of all, Alisson. Like I say, they're going to be in terrible trouble against them, and I think they're going to concede a ton of goals. Maybe they get a 3-3, maybe they get a 4-3. I don't know, but they're going to concede a bunch.
Calvert-Lewin's going to score though, isn't he, Joe?
I think he definitely will. Obviously, Everton are in such good form. Really intrigued to see the way that one's going to go.
I think it all depends on how the longer haul players, the internationals like Rodriguez or Firmino, feel when they come back. You know, if they're feeling a bit jet lagged, it could change the dynamic of an Everton or a Liverpool team. But yeah, I think I'd give Everton the edge at the moment.
And also at the same time, kicking off on your side of the water is the Old Firm.
Yeah, well, let's see how that goes. I mean, Celtic have obviously gone down 3 players with COVID. Who knows? These games are always a bit of a crapshoot. Hopefully it turns out all right for the blue side of Glasgow, but you just never know.
You never know. Chelsea, Southampton. Joe?
Yes, obviously Southampton have won their last 2 games and kept a clean sheet in both of those, but I think that will come to an end on Saturday. I think Chelsea don't seem to have any problem scoring goals. And there was just kind of, in their last game, they just seemed to be hitting their groove a little bit. So I expect Chelsea to win that one fairly comfortably, unfortunately.
The only thing will be who's going to be in goal for them, because I heard that Mendy had got a little injury, and so Kepa or Caballero, isn't it? Maybe back, and that might just.
Hopefully Kepa's back.
Big game of the evening as well. Man City, Arsenal. Could go either way. I think Arsenal are in good form, and I'm kind of edging towards a draw in this one.
I think what you have here is quite interesting, isn't it? Because Arsenal came to Liverpool. They got praised for giving it a real go. Quite rightly, they do look. I love how they play the ball out from the back. I think it's like that 100% commitment to what they do. They don't. It doesn't matter what the pressure's on. They always just keep it. But I think they need to get a result. I think they need to get something from that game. It's not enough anymore. Just keep going and then coming away with a reasonable performance in a 2-1 defeat or something like that. So, and I think City are there for the taking. Actually, I think City have that vulnerability about them. As we've spoken about before, their struggles to actually put games to bed. I think that's one where Arsenal should see that as an opportunity.
City need to kick on. They still don't have Jesus. They still don't have Aguero. And maybe even Sterling's out, who had to drop out of international duty. But City look in all sorts of disarray, and who would have said that before the start of the season?
Are you going for an Arsenal win, Fino?
I would say yes, actually. I think I was gonna go for the draw, but I think they maybe have enough up top to cause that backline of Man City all sorts of problems.
Despite that €500 million on defenders.
Man City for me. I think Man City will win that one for sure.
Man City for you, Joe. Okay, and then Clash of the Titans at 9:00 on Saturday night. Newcastle welcome Manchester United to St James's Park. Newcastle buoyed by their fantastic win against Burnley. I really fancy Newcastle in this one. I think it's Man United are back, new players, but disarray. There'll be a lot of hurting around what happened the last time, but I think Newcastle are difficult to beat. Hit you on the break. Sam Maxima. I fancy Newcastle by a goal.
Yeah, I think one thing that Newcastle seem to have at the moment, they have a lot of pace going forward. And we were talking about the Man United defence earlier. Man United don't have any pace in their defence. So yeah, like you were saying, I think Newcastle could really hit them on the break.
Yeah, no pace in that back line. Defenders who can't really turn very well. Short of mobility. They've got a dodgy goalkeeper. £80 million central midfielder who just doesn't seem to have clicked into gear at all. I mean, it's again, there for the taking, absolutely, but you can always rely on Newcastle to stuff it up when you expect them to win, can't you?
I think they'll do. John Joe Shelby's pinpoint 50-yard pass onto the head of Callum Wilson. The Sunday game we're picking out is Tottenham West Ham.
Bale's first game, so all eyes will be on Tottenham and on Bale. Son not having to travel for international football is obviously good for them. The only thing is Kane apparently having a bit of an injury doubt. But West Ham looked good before the international break, and I think they'll want to spoil the party as they did when they became the first away team to win at the new ground. Antonio and Bowen will be looking at that backline thinking that they can get at them, but my kind of cautious side believes that Tottenham are surely too strong for West Ham.
You would think so, but then West Ham went to Wolves and Leicester and smashed both of them, so anything's possible, right?
Fingers crossed.
Fino, thank you very much. Guys, we're just running out of time here now, so we're coming to the end of the show. We'll be back again on Tuesday and chat about the derbies, hopefully, and high-scoring games, and see if Liverpool can get back on track. And surely another poem from Kevin. Fino, thanks a lot, and we'll chat to you soon, buddy, yeah?
Cool, sounds good.
All right. Joe, thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
Kev.
Cheers, JP.
This has been the Irishman, Englishman, and Scotsman Football Podcast. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to subscribe, follow, and like. Cheers, guys. Enjoy the weekend's games. Thank you for listening. If you'd like to hear more of our podcasts, please click on the red subscribe button on the bottom right-hand side. Thank you.